Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, my name's Pip McKay and welcome to NLP for Business, where we look at the mindset and communication tools for business success and personal well-being. And today we have a fantastic topic. It's how to be as creative in business as Walt Disney. And if you're wondering what that sort of creativity is worth, well, last year Disney corporations were valued at $169.3 billion. Forbes listed them as the 8th most valuable brand. And they employ 166,000 people in 40 different countries. 62,000 of them are employed just at Disney World, which makes it the highest employee on a single site in the whole of America. How amazing is that? And of course, Disney was an incredible innovator. He was the first person to create the full-length animated movie. He also took incredible risks with the avant-garde Fantasia. And he also was able to innovate how to put sound, music, into animation, which had never been done before. And this incredible innovation won him critical acclaim with 22 Oscars for him as a producer, which is the largest number of Oscars won by a single person. So it was incredible. I suppose what I love most about him, though, is the incredible joy and wonder that he has brought millions and millions of children, as well as adults, reminding us that dreams really can come true and that there is magic in the world, which I think is a tremendous reminder sometimes for us in business as well, because that's exactly what Disney did in his own company. He just started with nothing and he built this incredible legacy which will last for hundreds of years, I'm sure, after he's passed away. So I think it's really important for us to sort of see, well, how was he able to create this legacy? Especially when we think that he created that fortune on the back of a drawing of a mouse. I mean, I sometimes think, imagine him going to the bank manager and saying, I'm going to make $1 billion business on this drawing of a mouse that I'm going to make move. I mean, it's not really a likely thing that's going to make a lot of money. And yet he had the vision to make that dream come true. So it's wonderful that it was recorded what his creativity strategy was, because he actually had a way that he was able to be creative and a way to engage his teams in that creativity and bring their skills and their vision and their talents and creativity to the table in a very specific way. So what's fabulous is that we know that strategy and we can apply that strategy to our own business so that we can innovate, stay ahead of the competition, problem solve effectively, and most importantly, make our own dreams come true inside of our business. So let's look at what we're going to cover today. How did Walt Disney motivate creativity within his teams? How did he do it and make sure his creative ideas were realistic? Because we all know people who come up with ideas, but they're not realistic and they're not profitable. How can we use his ideas in our own business? And finally, how can we use the same strategy to assist our own personal creativity, our own personal vision for our business? So let's just start with looking at, well, what is creativity? Well, creativity is the way that we problem solve and come up with new ideas and adapt. In actual fact, creativity is an adaptation process. They think that's probably why Homo sapiens with a high forehead survived when Neanderthals died out, because Neanderthals had long memory, but Homo sapiens had the capacity to imagine and come up with ideas that helped them adapt to a changing environment. So it's really important to understand that creativity is not some form of luxury. It's actually vital to our very survival in business and also our ability to make ourselves happy and come up with new ideas. So why is it important in business? Because it helps us stay ahead of the competition, as I said before. But I think I love this one. keeps us motivated with new ideas. After all, it can become pretty boring in business if you're doing the same thing over and over again. So it's a fantastic way of coming up with new ideas. And I also love this one as well. It helps you solve problems, particularly when you have limited resources like money, time and staff. And these were limited resources that Disney had early on in his business, where he didn't have a lot of money, he didn't have a lot of time and staff, he was very short-staffed in the early days, and yet he was able to create inside those limitations. Sometimes a lot of people in business think, oh, well, if I didn't have these limitations, I could do what I wanted. But the fact is that everybody who's ever been successful has had a limitation of some kind. Sometimes it's a health limitation. Usually at the beginning, it's a money limitation. And also people just don't have the staff at that time. And of course, we all only have 24 hours a day and we need to sleep. So there's always a time limitation of some kind. We need to use it most effectively. So let's get into seeing how did Disney do it. Well, it was really amazing because he actually had 3 separate rooms. So in room 1, it was called the dreamer room. This is where people were able to dream the most outlandish ideas, just come up with ideas, and everything was welcomed and accepted. Then he had a completely separate room, and this room was the realist room, but perhaps it would be better to call it the realizer room. It was like, well, how could we make some of our favourite ideas out of room 1 actually work in the real world? What sort of plans would we need to come up with? And then the final room, they used to call it the sweat room, and the sweat room was where you take the ideas that had the good plans and you actually put it through, well, you know, how might this not work? You know, how are we going to make it work within the limitations that we have? It was really a critic, but it was a constructive critic. So really what we're looking at here is this first like dream, come up with whatever ideas you want. And what's great is that the dreamer is safe in this room because nobody is allowed to criticise the dreams. Nobody is allowed to say, oh no, that wouldn't work. Nobody's allowed to say, would that be practical? And so this frees you up to just dream the big dreams. And then the realizer, we start to see, well, how could we implement it? Not, is it possible to implement it? But if it was possible, how could we? And then this final one, this is kind of the one where we kind of like go, well, what could go wrong? What might the critics say? And how can we overcome that so that we can make the dreams come true? And the cool thing was that if the critics came up with something that seemed impossible to solve, but still it seemed like a good idea, well, you could take that concept, that problem, back into the dream room and just go, well, what sort of dreams could we come up with that might solve that problem? And then kind of like go, okay, what could we do here? Or if the critic was coming up with some ideas that were sort of like, well, I'm not quite sure whether this plan is going to work, you could take those ideas, the criticisms, back into the realistic room and go, well, what other plan could we come up with that takes into account this that we hadn't looked at before? So this was the way that Disney did it, and it's really, really powerful and a fantastic thing you can do with your teams. In fact, I've worked with businesses where what we've set up is just a corner. And in that corner is the creativity corner, you know, the dreamer corner. And people have lots of pictures that are all kind of inspiring dream type of pictures. And then there's another corner of the office, which is the realist room. This is where there's calendars and plans and planning tools. And then, you know, finally, there's another little room tucked away somewhere outside of the main area of it. Maybe it's the broom cupboard, but anyway, you might need something a little bit bigger than that. But, you know, another space that's the critic room. And these sort of separate spaces really helps creativity come about. So let's look at some of the questions you can ask yourself in each one of the rooms to promote this. And do you know what? If you're a solopreneur, if you're a solo business owner, you can do this yourself. You can have a separate space that is your dreamer space, a separate space, the realist, a separate space that is the critic space. It's really powerful. I do it all the time in my business. And after a while, it just becomes about the way that you're thinking. You know, you can just pull out a journal that's your dreamer journal and write down all your ideas. And then you kind of got your realist journal about how to make it happen, and then a critic journal. So there's lots of ways you can do that. But what's important is that you can only do one activity at a time in that space. So let's get into some detail. So in the Dreamer Room, it's everything is possible. What if we could do anything? What if we had unlimited resources? What if we could wave a magic wand and just have whatever it is that we want? You know, this is really the space to come up with these big ideas. So if you could have anything that you wanted it, what would it be? What would be the best possible outcome? Who would you like it to be like? So, you know, there might be somebody, a business that you love, or you might have somebody you really admire, like Richard Branson, or someone that you know is inspiring for you. And sort of like, what would it be like to have your business in every country in the world? What would that be like? And every outrageous idea is freely accepted by you and the team. It's this really dreamer place. The other thing you can do in the Dreamer Room is you can take a problem into this space. So say there's a problem that you can't solve, or you find not easy to solve within the business. Well, you can take that problem into the dreamer space, and you can like go, wow, what if we could solve this problem? Or what are the million different ways we could solve this problem? How can we turn this problem into our advantage? So, you know, sometimes one of the really important things to understand is that if you've got a problem in your business, rather than complaining you've got this problem, just remember that all your competition's probably got the same problem. And if you can solve it, that's going to put you so far ahead. So I remember a mentor of mine said, you know, don't complain about the difficult problems, because those difficult problems are your opportunities to be a leader, because so few people can solve those problems. And if you can solve it, then, you know, you're going to just be so far ahead. So really embrace those. And the Dreamer is a fantastic way of looking at all the different ways you could solve those problems. So, you know, you might like to take a photo of this slide here and put it up in the Dreamer Room or the Dreamer space, or in your Dreamer journal right there, so that you can remember what it's like. But there's also kind of a physical posture, you know, it's just kind of like this, that sort of inspired space where you're up here in ideal plane, ideas plane. Okay, so let's look at the next room. What I love about room 2 is the realist, because this is the way that we actually make those dreams come true. I've worked with plenty of people who have lots of ideas, but they have no practical application of those ideas. And then what happens is either they have to go to somebody else for that practical application. That's going to eat in massively to their profits.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.